Hey guys, in the fast lane here. In this video, we're going to be replacing rear brake pads on a 2003 Cadillac CTS. If you need to purchase items in this video, you can purchase them on my website. It'll say shop this video underneath the video. If you're on my YouTube channel, I always pin it to the top comments. It'll say shop this video, or it'll be in the About Me section. Special thanks to Buy Auto Parts for sending out these parts. First thing we're going to do is put the vehicle in park. Then we're going to take this block of wood and we're going to put it in front of this front tire. And make sure that your e-brake is not on. Next, we're going to go ahead and put the jack underneath the vehicle. They have arrows. This is a little bit different than the front. You're going to find the position where it's at underneath that arrow. And we're only going to put the jack there before we would put the jack stand, which we have right here. So we're going to go ahead and jack this up. And once we're done jacking it up, then we're going to find a place to put the jack stand. You always want to work with a jack stand in case the jack fails. Here's where I decided to put the jack and jack stand. So we have the jack underneath the arrow. And then the jack stand, we just pretty much set it right like this. I didn't let it go all the way down. I just let it get a little bit of pressure on that jack stand and then stop the jack, and that'll be good. So with these rims, we have caps on top of the lug nuts, and you can see one of them's off, just missing it with this rim. So you're just going to take them off real gently. Set those aside, and now we'll go ahead and take off these lug nuts. It's a 19mm for both the cap and the lug nut. Now that the lug nuts are off, just go ahead and give it a kick or a whack. And we'll set the tire over here. What we're going to be using for the job is a bungee cord. This will hold up the caliper. A C-clamp. This will compress the caliper piston. We'll also use groove joint pliers. I'll show you both ways. We got a socket set. We have the brake pads. We have some synthetic moly brake grease. We'll be using Permatex anti-seize, brake cleaner, and drilled and slotted rotors. Now, with drilled and slotted rotors and other aftermarket rotors, you need to pay attention to the vanes, V-A-N-E-S, not V-I-N-S. Basically, it does matter which side these rotors go on. So you have to pay attention to that. Look at the box. Inside a rotor, there's these vanes, and these vanes are at an angle on most aftermarket ones. Some are universal where they're just straight, but aftermarket ones, the vanes are angled, and depending on which way the tire is rotating, so if you're driving forward, which is going to be a lot faster than in reverse, the vanes have to be angled at the right angle to pull the air in and cool off the brake rotor. So it's very important that you get which side the brake rotors go on. So the tools we're going to use to take off this caliper is a crescent wrench, 17mm socket, and a little pipe to slide over the ratchet so we can kind of like a cheater bar. So we'll take the crescent wrench, we're going to slide it over the, more than likely it's an 18mm bolt. Then we'll take the 17mm, we'll put it on the back here. Before we do, we got to slide over the cheater bar or pipe, and then we're just going to crack it loose. So we're going to pull towards the front of the vehicle. There we go. And I'd put an impact in here, but the strut is in the way to get any kind of impact in there, so you kind of got to do it by hand, unfortunately. So that one's off, and we're going to do the same thing to the bottom. So the bottom's a little tricky. Now, you're going to need a real short cheater bar to get this one off, or you can jack the vehicle up a little bit higher. Now we're going to go ahead and take the bolts that go through the spindle into the carrier. And you'll see an image right here. And now we have to break these loose to remove this carrier. So these ones are pretty tough. You're going to go straight down, so you're going to loosen them. It's going to be lefty-loosey, righty-tighty if you're in front of the bolt, so it's going to go towards the front of the vehicle. All right, we got the top one loose. So just get that one loosened up and leave that one in there. And now we'll break the bottom one loose. Right before you take these two carrier bolts out that go through the spindle, hold on to the carrier because it will drop straight to the floor and you don't want to crack it. So I'll show you right here. When I loosen it, there it goes. So be careful. You don't want it to fall on your finger or your toe or anything like that. So we'll take out the two 18mm bolts. Now keep in mind that the top bolt is the longer bolt and the shorter bolt is the bottom bolt. So when you're putting them back in, the long bolt goes in top, short bolt goes in the bottom. Now there's one more step to get this rotor off. We got to get a Torx bit, a T30. So we got a T30 Torx bolt right here. So we'll put that in there right like that. I'm going to hit it with the impact. Comes out just like that. And now the rotor will come off. Now it's not always going to come off easy, so you want to take a rubber mallet or the back end of a hammer. Now personally, I don't care about this rotor. So if you want to save your rotor, this is what you have to do. But I'm just going to take the actual metal part and hit it. I don't suggest this if you want to keep it, but hit it right along this area in case you want to reuse it. And if you have your e-brake on, this rotor will not come off because there's shoes in here that push out and lock it in. Now, while you're at this step, just go take some brake cleaner and spray it off. Now this doesn't act like a normal brake. This isn't your rear brake system. This is just for your e-brake. All right, we're going to go ahead and clean up the carrier. We're going to take off the brake pad clips, which are these guys, and the slider bolts. Take those out, re-grease them with some multi-purpose Valvoline. I like to use this stuff. You don't want to use any kind of silicone on these, but a multi-purpose grease is good to go. Also, you're going to need a wire brush, and I always like to use a filtered mask. Now this is a P100. This is Miller. Real low profile, works perfect on welding masks. This one filters out 99.97% of airborne particles, oil, aerosols, chromium, zinc oxide, magnesium, aluminum, and cadmium, and lead. So that's pretty much everything you'll deal with. Now this rust particles, you don't want to breathe that in. It'll jack you all up. Now before I put the mask on and talk, which I won't be able to, I'm just going to go ahead and pull the clips off. So just remember what orientation they go in. Now a lot of new brake pads, they come with new clips, or you can purchase new clips and you don't have to worry about cleaning them, so that's something you might want to think about. I'll have pads with clips, pads without clips. You choose what you want. And we just go ahead and pull this one up. And for the slider bolts, I believe these are the same size. Go ahead and grab the rubber boot here and twist and pull. You don't want to pull straight out because could possibly rip this boot. I've seen it happen. So just set that out, pull it out as far as it can go, grab the rubber boot, twist, and out. You don't want to just yank it out because it could tear it, and then you're not going to have any kind of protection from dust particles, dirt on the highway, stuff like that. So what we'll do is we'll take a cloth and we'll just clean off the original grease. Get it really clean. You can hit it up with some brake cleaner if it's bad. You can also hit it up with some 200 grit, maybe 60 grit, and then lower it. Sandpaper. But you don't want to make it rough. You want it to be smooth. Maybe some steel wool if it's a little tiny bit of pitting. Other than that, you don't want to use any kind of real abrasive sandpaper. These are supposed to slide in. Basically, they kind of hydroplane on the oil, and it makes a nice smooth braking. This is what's going to really make that pedal feel nice. So clean those off. They're the same exact length, so you don't got to worry about that. And I'll just go ahead and do these real quick. You're just going to take some of the grease, Now I like to do overkill. So you just take a little bit, and I like to pre-stuff it in there. Stick it in like that. Push in, wipe off the excess, and that's it for that one. Do the same thing to the next one. Some grease. Take the slider bolt, put it in the carrier, push all the way in until the rubber boot slides over. Clean it off, and that's it. Now for these clips, before I put my mask on, you're just going to sand in here with the wire brush. Just go ahead and scrape it out, clean it on the carrier side. Then take the clips, clean the front and back. You want to get right here and in this groove right here. This is where we're going to put some Permatech, and then we'll grease up the pads later. Now that these clips are cleaned off, you're just going to stick them in like this. Just get them lined up. That's it for that one. And that's it for that one. The next step, we're going to take Permatech anti-seize. We're just going to put it right in here where the pad would slide, and on top where the pad touches. We're going to do the same thing to this side. And I like to do this before it goes on the spindle, because once it goes on the spindle, that's pretty much it. You could end up wiping it on the new rotor, and you don't want that. So basically this comes with some moly lube. So it's synthetic moly brake grease. And what you're going to do is, I've already greased them up, but I'm going to show you what I did. Basically you're going to take this grease and you're going to put it on the sliders right here where they would go into the clips on this side and this side. Try not to get it on the actual brake pad itself. You don't want anything on the brake pad itself. And you're going to do that to all four of them, either side. Then these pads right here with the clips on them, these are telltales. Basically when your brake pad gets low, this metal clip goes into the rotor and starts a screeching noise. And that prematurely lets you know, hey, it's time to change the pads before the pads completely go down to the bare metal plate here and really destroy the rotor. Now, if you put these pads on wrong, they will prematurely screech and make all kinds of noise. And I'll explain that right now. Here's what it is. Basically, the pads with the clip, which this is the clip right here. This clip, as you can see, it doesn't go all the way down. It goes about halfway on the pad. So when you get wore, it starts to dig into the rotor. Now, this pad with this clip only goes on the back side of the caliper. And the reason being is when you look at the caliper, there's a piston on the back of the caliper, right? So the piston's on the back of the caliper. It only goes in the center. But on the front of the caliper, there's two forks. And the two forks lay down. And what happens is if you put this pad with the clip on the front of the caliper, the two forks, one of the forks is going to smash into that clip every time you hit the brake pad. And it's going to push it into the rotor. So pay attention to that and do not put it on that way, or you will get a premature screeching noise and it could damage your brand new rotors. Or it will damage your brand new rotors if you don't catch it in time. So when you're applying the grease to the ones with the clip, just put the grease right in the middle on this middle plate. When you're applying the grease to the ones without the clip, we're just going to do two lines wherever those brake rotor fingers, not brake rotor, but brake caliper fingers are, wherever they land. So just cover it. You can cover the whole pad if you want. It's really not going to make a difference. So don't be shy. Just cake it on there. But make sure you have enough for the left driver or passenger side and the driver side. Now we're going to take the passenger side, because that's the side I'm working on. brake rotor. And you need to pay attention to this, where the Torx bolt's going to go. So we got the hole right here and the hole right there. So we'll take our rotor, line it up, slide it back like that, and then we'll take the Torx bolt and we'll just kind of hand tighten that in. And then once we hand tighten it in, I just kind of tap it real quick with the impact gently. If you're going to do a torque spec, I would say no more than 10 foot-pounds. And that's it. Now before you put on the carrier, just go ahead and spray the front and the back of the rotor with some brake cleaner real quick. Just want to get any kind of grease. They put like a sticking coating on there so it doesn't rust. Now we'll go ahead and take the carrier and the two 18mm bolts. Now remember, the top bolt is the longer bolt and the bottom bolt is the shorter bolt. So you're going to set it just like this. Put the longer top bolt in first. Just get it started. Take the bottom bolt and we'll put the bottom bolt in like that. So we're going to go ahead and set our torque wrench to 88 foot-pounds for the 18mm bolts that go through the spindle into the carrier. So set it to 80 and then go ahead and turn it 8 more rotations. It'll go to the number 8. Just like that. And then lock it in. Now when you're done using the torque wrench, always unlock it and back it all the way down to 0 because there's a spring in here and you want your torque wrench to last a long time. We're set to 88 foot-pounds. Put the torque wrench in here. It's going to be tough. There's 88 on the top bolt. And then let's get 88 on the bottom. The bottom should be easier, just because we got more leverage. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and put the brake pads on. So the one without the clip, without the telltale, goes on the front. So you just take your pad like this, start it in at the bottom, push it in flat. Now we'll take one of the pads with the clip. So we got the metal telltale right here. Get it in the right direction, come in the back, put it down and slide it in. Pull them together. Now the next step is we're going to go ahead and compress the piston on the caliper. Okay, there's 2 ways to do this. You can use groove joint pliers, where you can take the caliper, put it as wide as you can, and you can squeeze it. So you grab a spot, put it like that, squeeze it all the way down. Like that, it'll take a lot of pressure. Or you can use the C-clamp. Now with the C-clamp, you set it like this, and then you tighten it all the way in. So here's how the C-clamp works. And I find the C-clamp for the back caliper piston seems to work better. On the front I was using the groove joint pliers, but I don't know if it's the angle. But anyhow, so you can see I'm turning it. You just want to turn it till it completely stops and goes flush. Then you'll be able to slide it over the pads. And right before we do that, we're going to prep up the piston on this caliper with some Permatech anti-seize. When you're done, just loosen it, and you want to make sure that your piston's pretty much flush with that caliper. We'll take some Permatech anti-seize, and we'll just paint the piston all the way around, and this will prevent it from making noise and sticking. Now we'll take the caliper and we'll put it in between the brake pads, and you're going to notice that your slider bolts stick out too far. So all you do is grab your slider bolts, pull them back on bottom and top until the caliper slides over the pads. Then you take your two 17mm bolts and we get those started in the top and the bottom. Now we're going to set our torque wrench to 44 foot-pounds. And we're going to torque the two 17mm bolts, the slider bolts. So put your torque wrench on there. And then we're going to take our crescent wrench and hold the 18mm so it doesn't turn. There's 44 on the top one, and then we'll take our crescent wrench on the bottom one and torque this one down to 44. There's 44. So we got 44 on the top and 44 on the bottom. Now that your brake job's complete, the last step is put the tire on, torque it down, and go ahead and start your vehicle up, leave it in park, and pump your brakes about 10 to 15 times. You want to get the brake pressure built up since we compressed that brake piston in the caliper. Also, when you're driving, you're going to notice that your vehicle is a lot more hesitant, feels like it has a restriction or just some kind of resistance, something holding it back. And that's because the new brake pads and the new drilled slotted rotors, they're cut and kind of, they're gritty. If you look at the rotor itself, it has a real fine grit to it that you have to break that in and kind of smooth it and make it chrome looking. So that's going to take some time. If you want to avoid waiting a week for your rotors to break in, you can always get on the interstate and hit your brakes, you know, doing 70 or whatever your speed limit is, and hit them for a little bit, you know, as long as nobody's behind you. And that'll help break those brake rotors in a lot faster. Because if you don't, you're actually going to lose mile per gallon. I've lost, when I first did my front brake rotors, I ended up losing over 10 miles per gallon until they finally broke in. Now if you need to change out your brake fluid, right here is the reservoir for the brake booster. Just .3, go ahead, pop the cap up, and just make sure it's filled to the line on your reservoir. Go ahead, put the cap back on, and that's it.